Kia ora te iwi. Today on Marae Investigates. Well, this is our last election debate and we challenge the main political parties to tell us how they will face up to the most important issues to Maori voters. We present Te Wero 2011.
Tōna nei ki a koe kia homai te kaha te Māori ki te patu hoariri ki te pare kura tanata. Whai anā tapu, whai anā mātua tīpuna ki te kaupare ture ki te arai nā tika nā te Pākehā, hei orana mo te iwi Māori. Nei rā te wero anā rōpū tō ranapu, kia whai hua, kia whai toa, kia puta te ihu ki te ao mārama. Tūturu whakamaua kia tīna, tīna, haumi e, hui e, tāi ki e.
E ngā niwha e ngā ane o te ao Māori, tēnā rā koutou katoa, nau mai anō rā ki tō tātou marae e hora atu nei. Welcome to this special live debate. Now, prior to the election, the Marae Investigates Digipol asked Māori voters for the issues that concerned them the most.
And today we'll challenge the main parties to tell us how they intend to face up to those issues and why you should give them your vote. So let's meet our panel. Representing the National Party, Hekia Parata. Co-leader of the Maori Party, Pita Sharples. Representing the Labour Party is Shane Jones. Metiria Turei, co-leader of the Greens. And leader of the Mana Party, Hone Harawira. Tēnā koutou katoa, and here's our first challenge. Well, the number one issue for Māori is unemployment and jobs. The stats paint a bleak picture, 13.4% unemployed. The number of young Māori men not employed or in training is even worse, at 18.6%. So how are your parties going to turn this around? Let's begin with Hekia Parata.
Kia ora, Shane. Firstly, we're going to continue to build and strengthen and grow the economy. We're going to invest in roads and ultra-fast broadband. We're going to support businesses because these are the entities that create the employment that give us the jobs. And we are also going to invest in education because what we really have is a skills problem. And if we can invest in those skills and create the jobs, then there will be opportunities for all.
Pita Sharples, what about the Maori Party?
The Maori Party has already instigated and reintroduced trade training. We've got 200 Māori started straight away in Christchurch working with kaitahu, and we've got people in infrastructure and in cadetships. But in terms of real jobs, we have a policy of getting our Māori community organisations to subsidise, if you like, employment so that all our people, even on the dole, if that's subsidised, they could still be under the minimum wage, yet they would have jobs. And it would only cost them $10,000 a year for each group. And they could seek that sponsorship to do that. So that's many more jobs, thousands.
Shane Jones, what about the Labour Party? How will you address these bleak stats?
First thing we're going to do is we're going to reverse the government's current policy of exporting jobs overseas. All the jobs that have been lost to Kiwi Rail going to China, we're going to stop that. Secondly, we're going to introduce thousands of new positions for young Māori who actually need to upgrade their skills, in particular an innovative usage of their current dole to actually enable firms to take them on, because you get a job by learning on the job. In addition to that, what we're going to do is continue the infrastructure projects, but not waste infrastructure money on projects and roads, etc., that we can't actually fund and we can't afford. And that's going to be a massive employer, and we're going to insist in a strategy that expedites the recovery of Christchurch and stop having people go to Manchester to hire New Zealanders and start hiring rangatahi and Kiwis to rebuild Christchurch.
Metiria Turei, what about the Greens?
So one of our three priorities for action after this election is to create 100,000 green jobs, and we have very explicit proposals to do that. We will extend the home insulation scheme to another 200,000 homes. That's 10,000 jobs, particularly for young people. We will do engaged in riparian planting, which is a job for those who are developing skills in the area, but it's also excellent for our economy because it helps to keep our rivers cleaner, and it's great for rural areas. And we will engage in a state house building scheme. We need to build homes for our people, and we can do that in all those areas, particularly the rural areas where people are in real need of decent housing, upskilling our young people to be involved in the building trades and making sure there's work for them when they're finished. We're also going to shift the nearly $2 billion that the National Party is giving to polluters to subsidise their pollution, move that money to the research and development sector so that New Zealand businesses are able to use that money to develop new technologies in renewable energy and be able to build businesses that they can then export that stuff. I suspect
you've got a long list there. I want to move on.
Export overseas to $1 trillion global market. That's the future of New Zealand.
What about the Mana Party, Hone Harawira?
Yeah, I don't have any argument with any of that, except to say that Māori want jobs now. We don't have time to wait for the export sector to kick in. We don't have time to wait for this high-quality IT, this, that, and all of these massive road projects, which are a dumb idea anyway. There's a whole lot of rural roads in Taitokoro that could be fixed if National wants to spend money on.
So is that what one of your proposals are?
Taihua. I'd like to be very, very clear here. Our focus is on going back and creating community employment projects tomorrow. Now, we have the money. Metiria has just provided an option in terms of the $2 billion that's being wasted in other areas, putting back into the community to actually get people engaged and work again, because Shane pointed it out.
How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that, Hone Harawira? A lot of rhetoric. How are you going to do it?
You know, Shane, we used to have PEPs back in the old days, right? Now, people might say we don't want to go back there, but the recession we're in right now is even worse than it was when we had PEPs. We desperately need to get our people back actively engaged in the process of work. And Shane pointed it out, once they're working, they start to change. They start to see, I can do better than this. I can aspire to higher goals. But right now, our people just need work.
OK. Hekia Parata, fair point. Our people just need work. How are you going to give them that work?
Well, first of all, we know that 63,000 jobs have been created in the last 2 years. We know that through Job Ops and Community Max and the Youth Guarantee that our government has implemented in the last 3 years has seen on each of those programs, 1/4 to 1/3 of Maori participants, of whom less than 10% have gone back onto a benefit. So that means that they have been retained in employment and that they are getting training.
But we also know that the unemployment rate for Māori has climbed under your watch.
That's right, and that is why, no, it hasn't climbed under our watch.
Well,
Listen,
it has.
No, it's been 3 years. The young people who have left school in the 3 years we've been in government left school without NCEA 2 from the previous 9 years of their time at high school. That's why we know we have to invest in, and we have 3,500 more early childhood places. We've extended 20 hours to Kohanga Reo and to Play Centre. We've introduced national standards so that kids can read and write.
We will be talking education shortly, but Shane Jones, you were agreeing. You do think that actually the unemployment rate has grown under National's watch.
Well, let's deal with an unusual aspect of politics, the facts. The median age for Māori has gone down considerably since 2008. The unemployment amongst our young men has gone up considerably since 2008. But more potently, what's happened is that Pita and Hekia have overseen the stripping of training money going into firms, going into post-secondary institutions to pick up that slack. Now, those young people are not earning, they're not serving, or they're not learning, then all they're doing is potentially filling up Judith Collins' new growth industry prisons. And that's a shocking indictment on both.
Can I get a response from the Maori Party?
It's quite the opposite. The Maori Party has reintroduced trade training. It's up and running and it's working with the iwi. And this is going to happen everywhere. But taking what everyone has said, that it's our solution is immediate. If you get not-for-profit organisations to subsidise the dole, and people get work immediately. You'll get thousands to work immediately, and TPK and social welfare, they can all have people helping to get that money in.
Hone Harawira, and I will come to you, Metiria. Hone Harawira.
People at work.
You know, the racism endemic in our society saw the gap between Māori unemployed and non-Māori unemployed never change during Labour's time. It never changed. It went up and down, but it never ever changed. Under National, that's gotten even worse. Now, regardless of what Labour says, regardless of what Māori...
Well, what does Mana say?
No, regardless of what...
With respect, regardless, what does Mana say?
Regardless of what they say, the fact of the matter is the gap between Māori unemployed and national unemployed proves the racism within our society.
What about
we
the
need
lack
to
of
take that money.
qualifications?
We need to take that money and put it back into the hands of those communities that are able to get their people working tomorrow on their maraes, in their hospitals, in their schools, in their community facilities, so that they're engaged in the process of work and then available to become work seekers when the private sector finally gets its act together and kicks in.
And finally, Metiria, a brief comment?
Well, the National Party has just overseen 5,000 jobs lost in the public sector, and now they're putting a cap on the public sector so that there will be more jobs lost. This is crocodile tears from Hekia Parata and
I'm not
from the
crying,
National
Metiria.
Party.
Not crying
they
at
are
all.
not interested in creating real jobs. They are actively
We've
cutting
increased
the
the
jobs.
value.
They are attacking welfare beneficiaries who are the subject, who have lost their jobs because of the cuts that have been made by the national government, and yet then they're telling all this rhetoric about how they've got all these lovely things they're going to do. They are not doing anything but cutting work and punishing the poor.
We have more police, more doctors, more nurses, more teachers, because what we promised was we would increase the front line and reduce the back office services.
What they did was by cutting back office services, what they did, Hekia, let me have my chance, what they did by cutting back office services was they increased the workload for those at the front line. Not only that, but those on the lowest.
Please, so that we can hear Metiria. Yes.
Those on the lowest incomes, those who are welfare beneficiaries, those who are on lowest incomes are the ones who use public services the most. So when you cut public services, what you do is cut services to the people who need it the most.
We definitely need to move on. We need to move on. We need to move on to our next issue, and the challenge is education. The education system has consistently scored a fail when it comes to Māori students. Will your party do more than write another must try harder on the next report card? Let's start with the current Associate Education Minister and co-leader of the Maori Party, Pita Sharples. Māori education and their stats, how are you going to turn those around?
We've already begun as the Maori Party by giving every decile 1, 2 and 3 schools a reading for learning to read program which involves the parents. Because unless you begin at the beginning, then you're always going to have that gap in reading ability to go right through.
What about it?
Kaupapa Māori money, we've got 60,000 for them. 90,000 for early childhood education is something that we've fought for, and this is what we're going to go through. Education's vital.
Hone Harawira, what about in your electorate of Te Taitokero? Are you seeing these results that the minister, that the co-leader is talking about?
Under this Māori Party, National Party government, statistics in terms of education for Māori in the Taitokero and the rest of the country have actually gone backwards.
No.
No, seriously. So regardless of all of the talk, the suspension rates are higher, the expulsion rates are higher, the non-achievement rates are higher, the fact that Māoris don't complete are higher. So, yeah, what I can say is what the minister may be talking about has no reality whatsoever, not only to the electorate that I serve, but to the country that I'm now responsible for as the leader of the Mana movement.
Reading programs for the North, they're in place.
Shane Jones, what about Labour? Because people will say, well, you had 3 terms in government. Things didn't really radically change or get better for Māori. Here the Māori Party and Nationalists saying, well, they actually are working on improving those results.
But Shane, as a professional broadcaster, you've got to stop repeating these trite misperceptions. You've got to deal with the election that's 5 days, 6 days.
Can you answer my question? Answer my question. Rather than criticise the moderator, answer the question, please.
Number one. Bro, you're talking to politicians. What you give, you get back.
Absolutely. Answer the question. Answer the question.
Number one, restoration of the cuts to early childhood education. Number 2, and that is a very big problem that we do have, but restoration of the cuts to the post-secondary education phase as well, because we have a whole lot of kids that have dropped out of school. They're continuing to drop out of school. Now, I accept that Hekia and the others, they've got their ideological direction with national standards. That's cool, because we're politicians, we have differences. We don't believe that. We think that's actually going to lead to a massive dropout of PI kids and Māori kids because it's focused on too narrow a range. So we're not going to buy into that. A continuation of quality teacher training, a continuation of resources into post-secondary and reversing the cuts that have been done to early childhood education. But I'll say this, for those of us who are committed to education in Te Ao Māori, it's a two-way street. It's got to come from us as a people, us and our families, and working in conjunction with private sector, public sector providers, because the private sector, whether we like it or not, are major stakeholders in education, whether it's the church schools that I went to, etc. So I'm always a bit leery if we just look to the government to resolve all of our education woes. We've got to look both to ourselves, because we have a proud education tradition, and to an innovative government that's willing to work with communities to ascertain what's really needed for education.
That's the exact reason why our Reading Together program involves the parents and the young people taking them forward.
But that's the hippie program, bro. That's been around 12 years.